Brought to you by WikiVidi.com. Total Recall, 1990 film. Total Recall is a 1990 American science fiction action film directed by Paul Verhoeven. Starring Arnold Schwarzenegger, Rachel Ticotin, Sharon Stone, Ronny Cox, and Michael Ironside. The film is loosely based on the Philip K. Dick short story We Can Remember It for You Wholesale. It tells the story of a construction worker who is having troubling dreams about Mars and a mysterious woman there. It was written by Ronald Shusett, Dan O'Bannon, Jon Povill, and Gary Goldman, and won a Special Achievement Academy Award for its visual effects. The original score, composed by Jerry Goldsmith, won the BMI Film Music Award. With a budget of $50, $65 million, Total Recall was one of the most expensive films made at the time of its release, although estimates of its production budget vary, and it is not certain whether it ever actually held the record. Plot: in 2084, construction worker Douglas Quaid is having troubling dreams about Mars and a mysterious woman there. His wife Laurie dismisses the dreams and discourages him from thinking about Mars, where the governor Vilos Cohagen is fighting rebels while searching for a rumored alien artifact located in the mines. At Recall, a company that provides memory implants at vacations, Quaid opts for a memory trip to Mars as a secret agent fantasy. However, during the procedure before the memory is implanted, something goes wrong, and Quaid starts revealing previously suppressed memories of actually being a secret agent. The company sedates him, wipes his memory of the visit, and sends him home. On the way home, Quaid is attacked by his friend Harry and some construction co-workers. He is forced to kill them using elite fighting skills. He is then attacked in his apartment by Laurie, who states that she was never his wife, their marriage was just a false memory implant, and Cohagen sent her as an agent to monitor Quaid. He is then attacked and pursued by armed thugs, led by Rick Taloris, her real husband and Cohagen's operative. After evading his attackers, Quaid is given a suitcase containing money, gadgets, fake IDs, a disguise, and a video recording. The video is of Quaid himself, who identifies himself as Hauser, and explains that he used to work for Cohagen, but switched sides after learning about the artifact and underwent the memory wipe. To protect himself, Hauser instructs Quaid to remove a tracking device located inside his skull before ordering him to go to Mars and check into the Hilton Hotel with a fake ID. Quaid makes his way to Mars and follows clues to Venusville, the colony's red light district, primarily populated by people mutated as a result of poor radiation shielding. He meets Benny, a taxi driver, and Melina, the woman from his dreams, but she spurns him, believing that Quaid is still working for Cohagen. Quaid later encounters Dr. Ejimar and Laurie, who claim Quaid has suffered a schizoid embolism and is trapped in a fantasy based on the implanted memories. Ejimar warns that Quaid is headed for lunacy and a lobotomy if he does not return to reality, then offers Quaid a pill that would waken him from the dream. Quaid puts the pill in his mouth, but after seeing Ejimar sweating in fear, he kills Ejimar and spits out the pill. Laurie alerts Richter's forces, who burst into the room and capture Quaid, but Melina rescues him, with Quaid killing Laurie in the process. The two race back to the Venusville bar and escape into the tunnels with Benny. Unable to locate Quaid, Cohagen shuts down the ventilation to Venusville, slowly asphyxiating its citizens. Quaid, Melina, and Benny are taken to a resistance base, and Quaid is introduced to Kuato, a parasitic twin conjoined to his brother's stomach. Kuato reads Quaid's mind, and tells him that the alien artifact is a turbinium reactor that will create a breathable atmosphere for Mars when activated, eliminating Cohagen's abusive monopoly on breathable air. Cohaagen's forces burst in and kill most of the resistance, including Cueto, who instructs Quaid to start the reactor. Benny reveals that he is also working for Cohaagen, and that he alerted Cohaagen's forces. Quaid and Melina are taken to Cohaagen, who explains that the Quaid persona was a ploy by Hauser to infiltrate the mutants and lead Cohaagen to Cueto, thereby wiping out the resistance. Cohaagen orders Hauser's memory to be re-implanted in Quaid and Melina, programmed as Hauser's obedient wife, but Quaid and Melina escape into the mines where the reactor is located. Benny attacks them in an excavation machine, but Quaid kills Benny with a drill. Quaid then confronts Richter and his men, killing them too. Quaid reaches the reactor control room, where Cohaagen is waiting with a bomb. During the ensuing struggle, Cohaagen triggers the bomb, but Quaid throws it away, blowing out one of the walls of the control room and causing an explosive decompression. While reaching for the reactor controls, Quaid knocks out Cohaagen and he is sucked out onto the Martian surface, killing him. Quaid manages to activate the reactor before he and Melina are also pulled out and begin to experience similar decompression effects. Before they are killed, the reactor releases air into the Martian atmosphere, saving Quaid, Melina, and the rest of Mars' population. As humans walk onto the surface of the planet in its new atmosphere, Quaid momentarily pauses to wonder whether he is dreaming or not before turning to kiss Melina. Production. The original screenplay was written by Dan O'Bannon and Ronald Shusett, the writers of Alien, who had bought the rights to Philip K. Dick's short story We Can Remember It for You Wholesale. While Dick was still alive, they were unable to find a backer for the project, and it drifted into development hell, passing from studio to studio. In the mid-1980s, producer Dino De Laurentiis took on the project with Richard Dreyfuss attached to star. Patrick Swayze, who had recently starred in Dirty Dancing, was also considered for the role. In 1987, it was announced that De Laurentiis would make the film as the first production for his day company at the new De Laurentiis Film Studios on the Gold Coast, with Bruce Beresford to direct from a screenplay by O'Bannon and Shusett. This film did not eventuate. David Cronenberg was attached to direct but wanted to cast William Hurt in the lead role. Cronenberg described his work on the project and eventual falling out with Shusett. I worked on it for a year and did about 12 drafts. Eventually we got to a point where Ron Shusett said, "You know what you've done? You've done the Philip K. Dick version." I said, "Isn't that what we're supposed to be doing?" He said, No, we want to do Raiders of the Lost Ark Go to Mars." When the adaptation of Dune flopped at the box office, De Laurentiis similarly lost enthusiasm for the project, although he went uncredited in the final version of the film. Cronenberg originated the idea of mutants on Mars, including the character of Cueto. The collapse of De Laurentiis' company provided an opening for Schwarzenegger, who had unsuccessfully approached the producer about starring in the film. He persuaded Carolco to buy the rights to the film for a comparatively cheap $3 million, and negotiated a salary of $10, $11 million to star, with an unusually broad degree of control over the production. He obtained veto power over the producer, director, screenplay, co-stars, and promotion. The first thing Schwarzenegger did was personally recruit Paul Verhoeven to direct the film, having been impressed by the Dutch director's RoboCop. By this time the script had been through 42 drafts, but it still lacked a third act. Gary Goldman was therefore brought in by Paul Verhoeven to work with Ronald Shusett to develop the final draft of the screenplay. The director also brought in many of his collaborators on RoboCop, including actor Ronny Cox, cinematographer Joss Vacano, production designer William Sandel, editor Frank J. Uriost, and special effects designer Rob Bottin. Filming. Much of the filming took place on location in Mexico City and at Estudios Churubusco. The futuristic subway station and vehicles are actually part of the Mexico City Metro, with the subway cars painted gray and television monitors added. The interior of the metro stations Chabacano and Universidad, and the exterior of the metro station Insurgents were shot. Rating. The film was initially given an X rating. Violence was trimmed, and different camera angles were used in the over-the-top scenes for an R rating. Soundtrack. The score was composed and conducted by Jerry Goldsmith, and 40 minutes of it was released by the Varese Sarabande label in 1990. 10 years later, the same label released a deluxe edition, in chronological order with additional cues that were left out, totaling 74 minutes. With several Goldsmith scores, the music was performed by the National Philharmonic Orchestra. The score has been hailed as one of Goldsmith's best, especially as heard in the deluxe edition, and commended for its blend of electronic and orchestral elements. Critical response. Total Recall debuted at number 1 at the box office. The film grossed $261,299,840 worldwide. It received an 82% positive rating on Rotten Tomatoes based on 67 reviews. Metacritic rated it 57 out of 100 based on 17 reviews. Audiences polled by CinemaScore gave the film an average grade of A on an A to F scale. Roger Ebert awarded the film 3.5 stars, calling it one of the most complex and visually interesting science fiction movies in a long time. Owen Gleiberman of Entertainment Weekly gave it a score of B and said that it starts out as mind-bending futuristic satire and then turns relentless, and becomes a violent, post-punk version of an Indiana Jones cliffhanger. Film scholar William Buckland considers it one of the more sublime Philip K. Dick adaptations, contrasting it with films like Imposter and Paycheck, which he considered ridiculous. Mick LaSalle of the San Francisco Chronicle said the film is not a classic, but it's still solid and entertaining. James Berardinelli gave the film 2.5 stars, saying that neither Schwarzenegger nor Verhoeven have stretched their talents here, but added, with a script that's occasionally as smart as it is energetic, Total Recall offers a little more than wholesale carnage. Some critics, such as Janet Maslin of the New York Times, considered the film excessively violent. Rita Kempley of The Washington Post gave it a negative review, saying that director Paul Verhoeven disappoints with this appalling onslaught of blood and boredom. Feminist cultural critic Susan Faludi called it one of an endless stream of war and action movies in which women are reduced to mute and incidental characters, or banished altogether. The film ranked number 79 on Rotten Tomatoes' Journey Through Sci-Fi. Accolades. In 2008, the American Film Institute nominated this film for its top 10 science fiction films list. Novelization. The film was novelized by Piers Anthony. The novel and film correspond fairly well, although Anthony was evidently working from an earlier script than the one used for the film, and was criticized for the ending of his book, which removed the ambiguity whether the events of Total Recall are real or a dream. In addition, the novel had a subplot wherein the aliens planted a fail-safe device within the Mars technology, so that if it were misused or destroyed, the local star would go nova, and therefore prevent the species from entering the galactic community. It coincided with a comment earlier in the novel that astronomers were noticing an abnormal number of recent supernovae, giving an indication that the aliens seeded their tech as part of a galactic experiment in technological maturity. Instead of mentioning that he dreamt of her earlier in the film, Melina mentions she was once a model, explaining how Quaid could have seen her on the screen at Recall. Video game. A video game was made based on the film, featuring 2D action platformer scenes and top-down racing scenes. A version was released for popular 8-bit home computers and popular 16-bit home computers. The game was developed and released by Ocean Software, reaching number 2 in the UK sales charts behind Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. There was also a NES version which was notably different from the others, being developed by a different team who were subcontracted by Acclaim Entertainment. Interplay defended the changes, however, claiming that their alterations stuck closer to the spirit of the original short story, which they said read more like a platformer. In a tie-in with a NES game, the August 1990 version of Nintendo Power promoted the game for their well-known monthly mailing contests with the recall slogan of "Making the Impossible Possible," whereby first prize would be one of the Martian police uniforms, along with a videotaped trip to Hollywood with a chance to meet Schwarzenegger. Years later, the magazine admitted that it was their worst promotion, as our winner did not get to meet Arnold until late 1991, and even then only for a quick handshake. Television series. A television series called Total Recall 2070 went into production in 1999. The show was meant to be a sequel, however it had far more similarities with the Blade Runner film than Verhoeven's film. The 2-hour series pilot released on VHS and DVD for the North American market borrowed footage from the film, such as the space cruiser arriving on Mars. Sequel. Due to the film's success, a sequel was written with a script titled Total Recall 2, and with Schwarzenegger's character still Douglas Quaid, now working as a reformed law enforcer. The sequel was based on another Philip K. Dick short story, The Minority Report, which hypothesizes about a future where a crime can be solved before it is committed. In the movie, the clairvoyants would be Martian mutants. In 1994, producer Mario Casas spoke with director Ronny Yu about possibly helming the sequel. In 1998, actor-director Jonathan Frakes was also attached to the follow-up. The sequel was not filmed, but the script survived, and it was changed drastically and contained greater elements from the original short story. The story was eventually adapted into the Steven Spielberg sci-fi thriller Minority Report, which opened in 2002 to commercial success. Remake. In February 2009, The Hollywood Reporter stated that Neil H. Moritz and original film were in negotiations for developing a contemporary version of Total Recall for Columbia. In June 2009, it was announced that Columbia Pictures had hired Kurt Wimmer to write the script for the remake. Over a year later, Len Wiseman was hired to direct. On January 9, 2011, it was confirmed that Colin Farrell would be starring in the remake, and Bryan Cranston would play the villain, with production starting in Toronto on May 15. According to producer Neil Moritz, this version of the film would be closer to Dick's original story. Moritz also stated that the film would not be shot in 3D, saying, "We decided that it would be too much." Kate Beckinsale was cast in the role of Agent Laurie, while John Cho was cast as McClane, the smooth-talking rep for the memory company. The film was released on August 3, 2012, and received mixed reviews. Brought to you by WikiVidi.com. Would you like to know more?